Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
I quit. Dude, I don't know if I have the stomach to watch this one.
Oh boy, we put it on the list, but we're gonna see what happens here. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I cringe when I see anything to the head. Like, we're watching some of these, and you see some of those like old chair shots, like those like Attitude Era chair shots of like the Undertaker like hitting The Rock as hard as he possibly can. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, this is gonna,
brutal. Yep.
I mean, I'm glad we're watching it, but it's gonna be a little uncomfortable, man.
Yep, absolutely. So, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna get into it.
Well, tell me why you picked this one.
Part of this was because it's Rumble season, and this was one where I feel like we love this like kind of late 90s era as well too, and kind of getting into some of these matches. And this one, while it is brutal, there was a lot happened before it, a lot that happened after it, and it's one that you kind of, good and bad, we do need to talk about it. So yeah.
Good. Well, dude, let's jump right into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
All right, so we're continuing our Royal Rumble series here. Covered it last week, covering Rumble now. Got another Rumble coming up in a few weeks. Just one more. So we're doing 3 Rumbles this year. So I'll space out my Rumble trivia accordingly, Jeff. How's that sound? But we're in 1999, right in the midst of the Attitude Era. Business is absolutely booming. Everything's red hot. WCW's on the way down. WWF's just kicking ass. January 24th, 1999, Anaheim, California, at the Pond. 650,000 buys, Jeff.
Crazy. Yeah.
That's a lot of people spending $30 for a pay-per-view. And really an interesting show. A lot going on. We start off. It's funny. There were three dark matches on this show, and then we start off with the Big Boss Man defeating the Road Dogg. So Road Dogg's Hardcore Championship was not on the line, but somehow these guys wrestled for 12 minutes. Okay. Ken Shamrock would keep the IC title in a 15-minute match against Billy Gunn, winning with the ankle lock. X-Pac is going to defeat Gangrel to keep his European Championship in 5 minutes. Sable's going to keep her Women's Championship by defeating Luna, who was accompanied by Shane McMahon, of all people, in a 4-minute strap match. Then we get the match we're covering, the I Quit match, the famous I Quit match. And then in the main event, Mr. McMahon defeating Steve Austin to win the Royal Rumble, the iconic ending to that, and the two of them brawling. And it was interesting. I mean, I thought it was well booked. You know, it was a little, I mean, there were a lot of shenanigans, as you like to say, but you know, again, what are you going to do? You got a non-wrestler in there. It was a great feud. So I think they did a pretty good job with it. Rock and Mankind had a great feud, and I know you're going to walk through it, but how did we get to, you know, another stipulation match between these guys? Because they went back and forth for, you know, really probably a 4-month period, 5 months.
Long time. Yeah.
After WrestleMania.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and we'll talk a little bit about some of these I almost feel like this is an underrated feud. It's weird to say, but it kind of, sometimes you don't always think about it in this era, and so it's kind of weird. So, well, we're at Royal 1998. Yeah, the feud really started at Survivor Series, we're at Rumble 99. The feud started at Survivor Series 98. You actually had them in the finals. What was the Deadly Game tournament for vacant WWF Championship? You had The Rock winning the belt, of course, with the help from the McMahons, who had been aligned with Mankind and assisting him, but one of the corporate champion, and then you had Mankind feuding with the corporation. And so big part of that, like I said, kicking off at Survivor Series, but then you had, like you said, you have multiple matches here where these guys were kind of getting in. So first you had the rock bottom in your house, and Mankind, I say, winning, quote unquote, that match, but McMahon stepping in, actually saying that he didn't actually submit, and so the title would not change hands. And so The Rock continuing to hold the belt after even, I say again, quote unquote, winning. And then multiple times just kind of getting screwed out of the championship. You had him attacking Shane at this point on Raw and demanding a match. So it was actually the first Raw of 1999. That was, of course, when you had Mankind. This is the put seats in butts, like this was the big moment for that one. Just all kinds of different stuff happening on that. So then, right, have that timeline right? Yeah. So, and then of course, I had to think about it for a sec here. Refusing the Rock's demands for the rematch. You had, of course, different things, like throwing out different kind of stipulations until we finally get to this I Quit match with the Rock at the Rumble. And so it was really these guys having just a lot of back and forth in regards to having the title, not only like kind of going back and forth between the guys. And so we're coming into this match with Mankind having the belt. It was, I say, a large feud because you were dealing with the corporation at this point. So there was a lot of one. And so, when we get the Mankind winning the belt previously, like you had the corporation getting involved, you had Generation X getting involved, you had Stone Cold getting involved. Like there was all these other players that were involved in that, but The Rock and Mankind, like their feud, though, going back to Survivor Series. And so, part of it is Mankind, of course, being crazy. It was the I Quit match. It actually took a few different, attempts or tries to find stipulation that Mankind was willing to accept, and that's where we got to this I Quit match. And so it was kind of a tight build. I would say it was very early, kind of in the career of this one, or in the storyline of this match. And so there was a lot that happened after the fact, a lot that played out, but we'll get into that eventually. But for now, we can get into the match here.
1 hour, 5 minute mark of Royal Rumble 1999. 1 hour, 5 minute mark, Royal Rumble 1999. Jeff, are you ready?
Yeah, as ready as I can be. Let's see this.
Jeez, I know. I think you feel like the same way I do. So, all right, let's get into the payoff.
Ho! It's time for the payoff.
He probably don't even remember that he got
So this is from earlier in one of the dark matches I was alluding to. They had Viscera against Mankind and kind of beat the shit out of Mankind already.
They did a heat just before this, and so there's some matches, that happened. And Viscera, was that Viscera? Yeah, Mideon kind of attacking.
So this is when you had Sunday Night Heat, which was on at I think 7 to 8. On USA every Sunday. And, I mean, that was decent. I mean, it wasn't like a horrible throwaway show. They actually did stuff on it, but then it would lead into the pay-per-views. So, they do some matches and try to sell pay-per-views, which I guess in essence made it like a 4-hour pay-per-view, especially if you were there live.
Yep. Rock right out of the gate here, the Rock kind of jumping toward Mankind to get this match off here. Yep.
You know why the Rock's wearing a t-shirt?
Why, Tom?
No, it's a real reason, because he had surgery on his pecs.
Ah, did he? Okay. I don't know if you're going to be talking about our sponsor here, of course. Don't forget True Classic Tees using our code PAYOFF25. 25% off everything in your cart. Okay. No, I was not aware of that. Okay.
Yes. So there was maybe like a 30 or maybe even longer day stretch where he wore a shirt. But yeah, he had surgery on his pecs.
I do. I remember him wearing the shirt. So right out of the gate, we got Mankind trying to get him to say, "I quit."
Yep. Yeah. So I quit match, put the microphone in front of the guy type thing. We've seen these before. Last week I want to close the loop on something we talked about last week, which was if you're going to bring Cody Rhodes in for the Rumble, do you bring him in at 115 or 30? And what were your thoughts on it? And then I'll share mine.
I had said I feel like we're somewhere in that 20-25 range. Like let him knock a few people out, come in hot, and then maybe like have him have the face off with Seth, have Seth get dumped out by somebody else, maybe who's he feuding with, just kind of that callback, then have him kind of run the table at that point. I had said at the time, who knows where the stamina is going to be. 60 minutes is a lot, and so we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah.
I love the idea of him coming out place going nuts, and then, him making it through that 60 minutes and truly earning the title. Now, that being said, the problem with him coming out is you've just spoiled the ending.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no way he doesn't win. And if he doesn't win, people would be pissed. So I feel like, you do it in that, 15 to 20 range where he still has to earn it, and the place will go crazy. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. They're on the outside now. And, obviously this, part of the fame of this match is the fact that it's a big part of the Beyond the Mat documentary. So who knows why, but Vince McMahon actually allowed a film producer by the name of Barry Blaustein to record stuff.
Yeah.
So, he said, you can film stuff and be behind the scenes, and gave them a ton of access. It really made no sense. Like, what were they going to gain from it? And it turned out to be a terrible idea because you had this thing of, all the chair shots to the head. You had Jake Roberts, basically in the height of being, a coke and heroin addict, and actually did heroin at one point. They didn't show it on screen, but like he was doing it in a hotel room. It was not a good look at the professional wrestling industry. So why?
And then in that first year of ECW, like if you're going to pick a window, like for him, a documentary, great, but for wrestling, not so great.
Yeah. So it was really interesting. I think this was the same documentary where Darren Drozdov was puking on screen. I'm almost positive. $500,000 budget, and apparently did $2 million at the box office. Now, I don't know how much is left by the time of expenses and marketing and everything else. Probably sold a few DVDs as well, but just kind of interesting. So, but this was a big part of it.
So you got. At this point, we work outside a little bit. Of course, Rock put the headset on, kind of talking to the mic. You got him toss some Mankind over the steel steps at this point. So we've talked about it. Like, I think we've talked about it previously, or we have talked about it previously in this, but like, is I Quit match, like not just I Quit matches, but what are your thoughts on Triple H? He's getting rid of Hell in the Cell as we currently know it. Like, where are you at with not just like a gimmick match, but some of these gimmick pay-per-views? Are we going to see less this year in 23? Where are you stand on good idea, bad idea?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because that was something that I had as a talking point as well, is, what is the future of the PLEs? Are we getting 12, one a month, or are they going to try to space them out a little bit more? Do you, because I guess right now, what was the stretch? So we had Survivor Series, and then we have nothing until Rumble, right? We have a 7-week period where there's nothing.
Yes, you're right. Yeah,
okay.
There's a long period right now between Royal Rumble. Yeah.
Well, you have Royal Rumble and then Elimination Chamber and then WrestleMania, but that's still 3 pay-per-views, in 3. So I don't know. Yeah. I wonder if the cadence is going to be like, how many PLEs are you going to have next year? That's the first question, right? Are you going to 12? Is it only going to be 10? Are you, I know there's talk of doing a show in India, but I don't think it's going to be a PLE. I think it's just going to be like a big house show. But, you've got what, 2 Saudi shows next year, I would assume.
Well, you figure you have 6 if you're not counting Money in the Bank. You have 6 built-in shows already with the 2 Saudi shows. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, so again, I don't know, King of the Ring, are you doing a pay-per-view out of that or not? I don't know what he's going to, so it'll be interesting. I mean, again, the Hell in the Cell had to go. I mean, you use that when you need that, and you do it once a year, maybe twice a year, once for a men's feud, once for a women's feud. So that was an easy one. Money in the Bank, I mean, you can do a pay-per-view out of it, or you could just have Money in the Bank on SummerSlam, or, I don't mind that being a pay-per-view, but again, it locks you into now 2 briefcases.
Well, and I'm looking at it right now. So in 2022, they did have 12 premium live events and 5 NXT specials, if you will. So, and they've already said they're getting they did get rid of day 1. So that was your January 1st pay-per-view. We got the Rumble coming up here. We know Elimination Chamber's happening. There's nothing right now between Elimination Chamber and Mania. So then, if you're getting rid of then you would typically have Backlash. They're getting rid of Hell in the Cell. So do you make Money in the Bank then your kind of early summer pay-per-view, and then SummerSlam is your late pay-per-view? There was the random Clash at the Castle this year too, so we can't forget about that. So maybe we're going to start seeing 6 plus 1 international show. So now you're at 7. Add Money in the Bank, you're at 8. So that's still a solid year. I don't, then you are starting, and so that would get rid of Hell in the Cell, you're eliminating, or Backlash and Extreme Rules. So
when I also,
and then your other random
wonder,
whatever.
And I also wonder, do you want to, what do you want a PLE to be? Because it feels like, and I could be wrong, but it feels like we're almost shifting to less shows, but we kind of all want them to be stadium shows or feel big. So, Mania is a stadium show, SummerSlam's a stadium show, Rumble's a stadium show right there.
Mm-hmm.
Most years, again, Survivor Series was not this year, but could be. Elimination Chamber, or why couldn't it be? So it just feels like we're going towards, hey, let's do 8 of these and just make them a huge deal, 8 or 10 of these versus every 4 weeks having another one, which I like. I mean, the key would be getting Peacock on board, right? So hey, we probably promised you monthly shows, but what if we did 10 and they were a bigger deal and, drove a ton of traffic towards you, and we did, other things like the Ric Flair documentary instead, so, and they may say, great, what do we care? So that, it's just interesting. I don't know what the strategy is, but I kind of lean towards, and again, look at my viewing habits, and I don't think I'm much different than you. I'm kind of a pay-per-view guy. So I'm going to watch every minute of every pay-per-view. I'm going to watch very little Raw, very little SmackDown. I'm going to fast forward through it or catch the results. So the idea of making those pay-per-views really big, I love. I mean, Clash at the Castle, give me 10 of those where there's a huge hot crowd, great matches. Give me WrestleMania, give me Rumble. I'm on board for that.
So these guys have been, I just updated on the man, they've been pretty brutal here. They're fighting at the top of at least the entryway at this point. The Rock has a ladder. We were over in the electrical area trying to get a quit. Yeah. And they're just kind of starting to get a little brutal here, but yeah. I think you and I, we're both in agreement. I'm very much anymore if Monday, if I'm just kind of doing stuff around, the home, I'll have it on in the background. Or same with Wednesday nights, if I know, I have a friend, Kat, if she texts me or something and she's like, hey, such and such tonight, are you watching? I was like, yeah, I'll put it on. I'll see what's happening. And so I know recently they did like the matches with, the 6-way matches. Even that didn't get me excited with Omega and which is unfortunate because he's, one of the best in the world. And so, yeah, I think that just kind of finding it, but also, and so I was looking at I think they can tighten up because or the premium live events for NXT, because it was Stand and Deliver, which was the weekend of Mania. You had the In Your House, which was just the In Your House. They didn't brand it any other way. The World's Collide, which was the NXT UK and NXT stuff. Then they did Halloween Havoc, which they should never get rid of. They should always use that name. And then Deadline, which was in December. And so, which I think that we have, some opportunity to kind of some of that legacy type stuff. Bring you and I back in. If they do Halloween Havoc, I'm gonna at least stop for a second versus Deadline. It's hang on, okay, this could be something. And so this is a little bit more special. Do a Great American Bash again, especially now that Cody's back. Let's kind of see that. And so you got The Rock now climbing up to, I guess, what would be the 200 levels of the arena, or 200 level of the arena. Mankind's following him up there as well too.
Rock looks like he's walking a tightrope, and Mankind's following him. Oh, a kick to the midsection.
So they're on the non-fan side of the guardrail, punching each other.
In the stands. 12 feet off the floor. Mankind. Rock is going to go for a run, and a low blow by The Rock. That is legal. No rules in this match. Get out from there, Rock. Yep. Somebody follow him up there. They'll be broken in half. And now Mankind in the crowd trying to get away from the Brahma Bull, and The Rock quickly back on him, head first into the barricade, and now The Rock into the crowd.
What happened to him. This is why we're both kind of watching in anticipation. The Rock now up in the 200 levels. Yep.
Mick Foley, a right hand. Oh my God! Oh my God! Mick Foley.
And falls onto the.
We've lost the lights in the arena. Mick Foley went through the electrical circuit board.
Onto the electrical equipment. Yeah, and the lights did go out in the arena. Nice touch there. Yeah.
Pretty good stuff.
That was staged or not. That was pretty good stuff. Yeah. And then there's the lights back. Oh, look at that. Lights back on already. Yeah. So anyway, to kind of put a bow on this a little bit. Yeah. I think the initial point, a question I asked was good or bad with kind of some of this reduced stuff. Yeah.
So couple things here. In this era, Meltzer reported that Shawn Michaels' in-ring career was over. Pure, it's certainly as any kind of a regular in-ring performer. It's just funny. And again, I understand he had back surgery, back neck surgery. I understand that, but it's just funny, how wrong again. I mean, this guy's made an entire career out of making shit up. And, it's interesting. I've listened to interviews recently that Eric Bischoff has done with the Mike Johnson and Dave Scheer from PW Insider, and then from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful. And it's just the way those guys go about finding and reporting news is so much different than Meltzer. I mean, Meltzer's not.
Oh, yeah.
He just makes stuff up.
Well, it's it's the broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, I mean, but he just makes things up, and it's I mean, I feel like he's finally been exposed to it just because there's enough real journalism out there. But he doesn't do journalism.
There was any more. We need to remember too, when we're talking about wrestling, unless you hear it directly from the wrestler, even then you should never believe it, because you just never know. And this was, I don't even know if you saw this. I actually saw it a couple of weeks ago at this point, but Michaels did an interview. This was with Culture State. And he said, no, once a decade. Yeah, no, I've had that final match. Nope. Father Time waits on no man. I'm good. And I'm unbelievably happy with my career. And it's now time to watch the next generation flourish. Previously turned down the idea of coming out of retirement for one last match against AJ Styles or Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. So to your point, yeah, like and even then, he get from him, there's always that wrestling fan in you. It's like it could happen. Like him and AJ, like AJ would have a great match with him. Like KO had a great match with Stone Cold that could do the same thing with Shawn Michaels. Like if that's what KO's legacy is going to be, is like he just comes in and has these great matches with legends of wrestling. Fine, I'm perfectly okay with that. Have Austin do the run in and set up a match with Owens down the road. Like whatever. Yeah.
I just don't buy it being Sean's last match. Whatever. I just don't. But
yep.
I don't know.
It's tough, yeah.
The problem with him, and I love him, but the problem with him is like he just hasn't aged well, like with his hair, and I mean, just in terms of like getting in the ring, it's like, I mean, he's just bald. Like Austin and Goldberg, as long as they have their physiques, they can wrestle forever. Edge still has his hair. Like Edge isn't coming out bald. Hogan was bald when he was 25, so who cares? Like it's just like visually, it's just tough. I don't know. I just think it would be kind of tough, but at the same time, he can still go physically. He could still have a great match, and I just wonder, like, do you want AJ? Do you want KO? Like, do you want one more? I mean, so I don't know. I still think it's possible, and he can't be happy with the whole Saudi Arabia thing.
No, so and so now at this point we've got we're back in the ring. Mankind is handcuffed, actually. He's just been getting pounded on in the corner, and then now he got a little bit of an upper hand here, but this will lead to a little bit of the future match here of Mankind being handcuffed.
Hey, I went back and watched last year's WrestleMania, not all of it, but like some of it. I'll tell you a couple things. I mean, I'll watch that Cody clip a couple times a year for the rest of my life. I just thought that was so perfect. The McMahon stunner stuff wasn't as bad as like people act like it was. I mean, it was bad, but it was like, it was Stone Cold. It was awesome.
It hasn't aged that bad. Yeah.
I think people are a little rougher on it than they should be. And then, the Austin KO stuff was just off the charts good. I mean, just great stuff. So again, I think sometimes like people just want to be critical of things so they feel like their opinion matters. But here we go. So I guess we're about to get Mankind's been handcuffed for a while, but I think now we're about to get the headshot type stuff.
Mm-hmm. Going for the people's elbow. Yep.
A lot of controversy as to whether The Rock should have hit him that hard that many times, and if that's what they had agreed to. And it looks like Foley just took a people's elbow with a chair on him, and he is bleeding. But we know he's not going to quit yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him to quit again.
This show, I mean, you saw the card. Like, I mean, this match was best match by far. You saw 50% thumbs down on this one. The problem was, and again, I've said this before, but we kind of romanticized the Attitude Era a little bit, and there was just a lot of like bad wrestling and bad matches. I mean, the Big Boss Man didn't need to be in a 10 or 15 minute match. God love the Road Dogg, but I mean, like, these weren't great workers. I mean, it's just, that's the thing about now is like, again, there's a lot of things I miss about the Attitude Era, but the actual in-ring stuff between like short matches and bad workers. God, here we go with the chair shots.
It's 3. He is kind of grazing the side of his head, but also like 3, 4. Yeah, that was 6 total. He's definitely cut open.
King, they've got to end this. Okay, I'll admit that's enough. Mick Foley, say I quit. Mick, say it.
But yeah, that's the problem. Is like, I mean, the actual wrestling was just not that great in this. Again, the undercard stuff. Now, Jeff, I mean, like, you don't see bad matches on pay-per-views anymore.
It's very rare, yeah. And even the ones that are, the ones that are so glaringly bad that it's talked about for a while. Oof, yep, he's just clipping him now hard. Because they stand out so much worse amongst all these great matches. And so when you've got someone that, they do this bad match, like the Ronda match from last time, that was on Ronda, and you knew it was bad because everything else was so good. Like, and she knew it was bad. Shotzi said it was like, they knew it was bad. Yeah.
What match was that?
Not fully. Ronda and Shotzi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So here, just still clipping. I think we're at least a dozen chair shots at this point. He's like aiming for his head too. Like he could hit him on the back, and he's not.
Rock, put down the chair. Thank you.
Now The Rock guaranteed to the millions and millions of The Rock's fans that he was gonna make that son of a bitch scream, "I quit." Mankind, you monkey ass, says, "I quit." I quit! I quit!
What?
I quit! No! You
he
get
said
your
it.
monkey ass to the ring and award the champ!
There you go.
The champion! We have a new champion!
There you go.
Weird. Well, we'll talk about it. Yeah. Okay. The Rock is your new champ.
All right. Let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
Well,
The chair shots weren't as bad as I remember. They were still bad, but still overdid it. Didn't need to be
nearly as bad as I remembered, or as folklore is built up.
But also, like, very little reaction to the win. Like, it almost landed with a dud. Like, I just don't get it. So yeah, but
I mean, he is a heel, but it is a change.
Well, Mick Foley has nobody to blame but himself, Michael. I mean,
It's tough because it's like he is a heel, but
yeah. So on this one, as we end up finding out that this was actually a recording of Mankind saying "I quit," Shane McMahon actually playing it was from an interview on Sunday Night Heat, and so even though like Mankind was unconscious at this point, and so it was actually then the rematch for this one. Actually, it was a 20-minute time limit hardcore match. Excuse me. It was held. It was halftime heat. Actually, Super Bowl 33.
empty arena match.
Mankind winning. Yep, having Mankind win the title back by trapping The Rock under a forklift, and so which we have not heard this year. I hope they do halftime heat. That was the last time they did it with Adam Cole and all them. It was fantastic. And so give us a quick match. Like, I care less about the halftime show, and it's played over and over and over and over and over and over and over again afterwards. And so I can always watch that after the fact and still be involved in that. But halftime heat is always great. And so nice alternative to that one. But of course, Mankind winning the title back at this point. Again, having a last man standing match, actually St. Valentine's Day Massacre. You ended up that match having a draw as well too. And so then there was a ladder match on Raw, which the Rock winning from System, the Big Show. And then with WrestleMania around the corner at this point, he actually wanted to have another match, or he actually like Mankind trying to be a special guest referee in that one for the Rock versus the Austin match. It was actually Big Show and Mankind fighting to be the referee in that one. And so you had Big Show getting disqualified. And so even though he got his ass kicked in that one, there was steel chairs, all this other stuff. Like he ended up coming back for that Rock Austin match and being the referee. So just kind of crazy. Like, yeah. So the write-ups on this one, though, kind of weird, or kind of, just a lot here of Mankind. Well, for starters, Mankind being number 19 in 1999. The Rock was number 5. And so the torch on this one, The Rock defeated Mankind in an I Quit match to capture the WWF title. A hardcore brawl with Rock played out his conservative role well, and Mankind carrying the match. Mankind went too far in relying on shock value rather than sound psychology and subtle drama, which is possible even this type of match. The finishing chair shots were unpleasant, unnecessary, unnecessary and even sickening, and took away from the otherwise entertaining match. 3 3/4 stars. The like you said, the observer on this one, of course, this being the only match that was voted for the best match, and so getting the win or getting the high marks on that one. And so this was the finish of Mankind versus Rock I Quit match. It was savage in its brutality. Many would say needlessly savage, but ultimately was a screw job. After the Hell in a Cell match, probably 80% of the calls were glowing about Foley's performance, and maybe 20% were concerned about the mentality of doing so. Both sides were right, since they should have been concerned. But if you understand Foley's dreams, it was a good thing to do. This time the calls were 90% negative towards the finish, and almost nobody was raving in awe about the punishment Foley took, and were more mad at him for his lack of common sense than empathizing with him for the pain he was willing to suffer for the sake of entertainment and make the match memorable. He could have accomplished the same thing with 3 chair shots. I do want to point out, not in Foley's defense, but that I've seen people before take every bit as many shots, every bit as hard or harder to the head before, and I'd bet for pennies to dollars on their financial payoff for it. It wasn't anything unprecedented, and there is a lot of money involved in the business nowadays, but hopefully we'll never see anything like that again. 3 3/4 stars. So 2 3 3/4 stars. It was pretty brutal. What are you thinking here, Tom, for your payoff score?
I mean, it's still The Rock and Mankind, so it's like, I'm going to give it a 7. Like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't, it wasn't their best match. It wasn't the match where Foley won the title. It wasn't as good as Foley and Triple H the year after, I believe, at Royal Rumble, right? So it's like, it's good, but it's not great. So I again, to me, a 7 is, I was entertained. It was good, but it was nothing that, you're going to talk about in that top tier of Mick Foley matches. What about you?
Yeah, it was fine. Like I said, I'm at a 7 too. I feel like it just kind of like, it was what it was. Like it was kind of difficult to watch, with the chair shots and stuff, but also like, to me, it just doesn't stand out as like a top tier match though. Yeah. Like, it wasn't something that if someone was like, hey, like, what wrestling match would you go back and watch? Like, unlike last week with the Rockers match, like, this is not one that I would be like, oh my gosh, go back and watch this. And so just not, it was fine wrestling and on a card that was, pretty mediocre at best, if not below average. And so I'm perfectly fine though with, just, it was a match. It was a wrestling match, and that was that. So yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. All right. Let's send them home happy.
Oh no, we're not done with Royal Rumble yet. We have one more to go. So, 2
Yes, and so a little spoiler. So we're going to take a brief stop at the NWO and WCW next week, followed by, we've got one, of course, the week of Rumble. We had to do a Rumble match, and so I believe this will be our first ever casket match. And so gonna focus on the big men in Royal Rumble 1994. So that should be exciting. So we got a big January. I feel like we got an even bigger a bigger February planned. And so we're kicking off. We're going strong. We got some big stuff coming up here.
Looking forward to it.
Of course.
All right. Well, appreciate everyone listening. Fun episode.
Of course.
And we'll see you next week on an all-new episode of The Payoff.